Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today I had a day off and I just wanted to paint something. Happens pretty much every time I have free time. So I decided to cozy up in bed with my electric blanket because it's a bit chilly today. Turn on my projector and just paint a hamster. So I started off with the sketch. I did copy the reference photo into a layer and then sort of marked out the key points where things started, where things ended, where the eyes were. And yeah, I don't like to get super detailed with my own sketches really a lot of the time, unless it's like something super duper complex. I like to work out the details as I'm painting. So basically I just got into it by starting with the eyes because those are the darkest values in the whole painting and they're a good reference point. Then I went up to that ear and then I was like, I gotta make sure I know where these fingers are before I paint a whole bunch and they get sort of lost. So basically the goal here was just to lie down some base colors and then blend later. I was using the watercolor brush and at some point last time I was painting I must have like turned down the mixing, and I realized that while I was painting this one. I was like, it's fine, I'll mix later. So I did, and you'll see how that turns out. Basically I just grabbed colors, but also like I used the color picker in some areas, and then generally I had to modify them quite a bit because it was looking really flat. And especially once I started mixing and blending, then I lost a whole lot of the contrast. So that just goes to show that especially for some pictures like this one, it's a whole lot of light values and, you know, like light peach to white, that if you just use a color picker then it's probably going to be really hard to read. So yeah, I did use a color picker and then change things a little lighter, a little darker. I also eventually turned up the mixing a bit, and that means that things get kind of dulled out as well, but then you get a smoother blend. So I don't know, I just sort of messed around with the brush as I wanted to and went for it. I really liked the texture of this fur. It's nice and fluffy. It's not a super short furred hamster. It is a hamster. It's not a gerbil. Definitely not a gerbil. No, it's a hamster. So a little bit of a poofy hamster, same color as a hamster I used to have. Her name was Peaches because she was peach, but she had a much shorter fur than this. But I really liked the sort of like, it's like a peach marshmallow. So I paid close attention. This is where I'm starting to mix now, and I made sure that I was using the mixing brush that I made has a little bit of color that it puts down, so I did have to choose a color that worked with what was around it. And I actually ended up turning up the color payload a bit so you could see the texture of the fur, and that's why I was being really careful about the direction of the fur to make sure each stroke that I was making was in a direction of like where a tuft of fur was going. But as I mentioned before, you'll see the contrast is reduced a lot. So I just was like, okay, well, guess I'm gonna have to add it later. The last time I painted, I noticed the same kind of thing because again, it was a light-haired animal. So in that case, I think a technique that I'm liking a lot now, which if you're painting traditionally, you would probably consider that glazing, but for me digitally I just created a new layer on top. I set it to multiply so I wouldn't have to keep choosing darker colors every time, so basically like glazing, and I turned down the opacity, and then wherever I needed more contrast or you know, to bring out a shape a little bit more, I went over it with that darker color. And I also did a similar thing with highlights to bring out some of the whites a bit more. That was on an additional layer, not on multiply this time because that would not work on multiply. Lighter colors don't show up if you use multiply. But yeah, I just brought out a bit more of the roundness, I guess, of the fur, which is what I really liked in the first place. So I actually did that a little bit with the mixing brush on the arm on the right side, so the hamster's left arm. I was like, oh, I want to do that some more. So that's what I was trying to do to the cheek here, but I didn't want to make it so obvious. I actually had to tone it back a little bit because I didn't want it to look like, I don't know, like it was a plastic thing really that's really shiny. It's fur, right? So it has like it disperses light, or like it softens light quite a bit. So I didn't want it to be too harsh. And then, like I said, I'm just going in with that multiply layer and bringing in some darker values. And at first it was a little too harsh, so I ended up changing to a different watercolor brush, like a, what was it, not soft. There's one on Medibang paint, like splotchy. But yeah, I used that to sort of soften everything. And then I think the whiskers really pulled it together. I started with really opaque whiskers, and then I did less opaque whiskers. And then I realized, girl, you're not done. What is this hamster holding? Like, this hamster was eating, right? I gotta draw some sunflowers. So I had to go find some reference images for sunflowers, which I did. And I found one that was sort of at the right angle, because a lot of them were like straight from the top down, which would not have worked if this hamster is like sitting on a table. And I'm not making this hamster or the sunflowers like sit in like a 3D space, because I intend it to be a sticker. So that's why there's no like shadow under the hamster or anything. There's just like a light background color. So I don't do that for the sunflowers either. I really just added a bit of shadow that the hamster would have been casting on the sunflower seed right here, and then buffed it out a bit. And then I added a peachy background and signed it. So that's about it. Hope you liked the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did, please give it a like and put a comment if you have an idea what I should name this little guy. And subscribe if you want to see another one later. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!